Hello, welcome to the interview here on France 24. Well, for many of you watching, at least in the West, if I mention the name Iran, you may think confrontation, showdown, especially if I'm talking about the West. Since the Islamic Revolution of 1979, Iran has been a theocracy led by a supreme guide, an Ayatollah, and it's also had a conservative elite of religious clerics at the very top. More recently, though, under President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, Iran has clashed with the West on a series of issues, ranging from nuclear program to the conflict in Syria to, after the presidential vote in 2009, a crackdown on pro-democracy activists. Now, my guest today is the Iranian ambassador to France, Ali Ahani. Welcome to the studio here. This is actually your third assignment in France. You've already been here several occasions in the past, reaching back a couple of decades, in fact. You know France well, but you also know Iran's relationship with the West very well. I'm going to start with a very tricky relationship. That is right now Syria. A lot of people are looking at this conflict, sir, and saying that very shortly, Bashar Assad, the president, his days are numbered. He will fall. Isn't that going to hurt Iran many ways and its influence, not just in the region, but with the whole world? When and if that happens, Iran has continued to support Bashar al-Assad.
We have based our relations with Syria on a long-lasting and overwhelming, and on this basis, our relations have made strategic relations with Syria, and we will continue. What is important for us is the future and the destiny of the Syrian nation. And we have always tried to maintain the national interest of Syria. We are sorry that because of the situations which is occurring in Syria, the reasons of which are interventions of foreigners, which has sent rebels from different corners of the world, financially supporting them and arming them. Indeed, they have created overwhelming disorder and violent disorder. That's why it has created complicated situations in Syria, and we have always tried that primarily in the light of our relations with different factions and groups in Syria, we have tried to stop these violent clashes.
But, sir, the fact is, according to the United Nations, 60,000 people or more, that's conservative estimate, have died already in this conflict. Many Syrians, not all, many Syrians will tell you they will not negotiate until Bashar Assad goes. We're in a situation, we're at a stalemate right now.
What is real and on the ground, which is not, you have mentioned that there is a certain source which are supplying these sort of figures and statistics. We have precise information from the inside of Syria that different groups will not raise the condition for leaving the office of President Bashar Assad as the preliminary condition. We have to be realistic. We believe the efforts made by Mr. Akhzar Ebrahimi can, provided that it will be supported overwhelmingly, could lead to results. Recently, we have presented a 6-item plan which can primarily put an end to these clashes, and subsequently a national dialogue could be created among different groups and the government, because the further democratic processes could be planned and could be programmed.
Some people would say, though, that a lot of the support that Syria is still lending to this regime is really, it has a sectarian background to it, that it is about a large Shiite country like Iran trying to back a Shiite minority in Syria and an Alawite sect of Shiite that Assad belongs to, and to preserve influence in the region. How much is it about Iran preserving its influence, its position in that region, its prestige in the region?
Role and the place of the Islamic Republic of Iran in the region is quite clear, and it is not something which could be denied. Iran and the Islamic Republic of Iran is now presently chairing the non-aligned movement and has a very important responsibility at international level in this respect. We have always demanded for the best relations with different countries of the world, and with our neighbors. We have always tried, and we are trying to have a respectable relations.
I'd like to switch tracks a little bit and talk about the issue we have to talk about, nuclear weapons. Iran has continued to very, very strongly insist that its nuclear program is only for civilian purposes, for energy and for medical uses. Serious observers, a lot of the critics will look at you and say, sir, can any serious observer really believe Iran when it says that? Because they say you have used duplicity, subterfuge, tactics to try to hide the fact that Iran has continued to enrich uranium.
As you know, we don't have a new nuclear program. It started before the revolution. Iran was the first group of the signatories of the NPT, and we have always committed to our obligations. On this basis, the IAEA inspectors have always been welcome to Iran, and they continue to come. More than 7,500 persons per day of the inspections, routine inspections, and undeclared inspections have so far practiced. In all our installations, the IAEA cameras are active and operative during the day, around the clock. And it is quite clear for the IAEA that we are not going for nuclear arms, and we do not plan, and it is not among our doctrines, to go for nuclear arms.
But in the meantime, the reality is, sir, that the West has imposed increasingly tough sanctions on Iran. And let me just quote the Iranian Chamber of Commerce. Your own Chamber of Commerce said 2/3 of Iranian industry is shut down. Inflation over 27%. The rial, the Iranian currency, has fallen 40%. Sanctions are hurting. Could this be the greatest threat right now facing the regime?
See, it is obvious that sanctions have had some outcomes and some problems for us. But it doesn't mean that these sanctions will lead Iran to paralyze, or the Iranian nation will bow against these pressures, because it is our natural, legitimate, and our legal rights. And we hope that the West, without any kind of miscalculation and in the light of the realistic approach, they will come to admit to these realities, then we would be able to leave the problems behind, and a promising future in calm and tranquility will be made for the world.
One more question. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, your president, he cannot run for re-election. His terms are over. There will be an election, though, later this year in June. What will happen? Do you expect to see democracy activists in the street of Iran again, as we saw in 2009? And if they are there, what will the response be? It was a bloody crackdown last time. What will happen this time?
See, holding demonstrations and protests, as is the case in the West, requires a legal procedure and getting authorization. And any kind of demonstrations not based on legal authorizations will not be legal as well.
So that means no democracy protests will be tolerated. No protests will be tolerated during this election season.
Any kind of protest could be raised, provided that the legal authorizations will be taken and obtained in advance. Is it not the case in West? In the West, is everybody allowed to make the demonstrations at any time they wish? In Europe, if a group of people will come to riot, to set ablaze, immediately the police will enter into the scene and would confront with them.
Ali Ahani, I'm going to give you the last word there. Thank you very much, because we have run out of time. Iranian Ambassador to France. We've been talking today about a range of issues, from the nuclear program to Syria to the upcoming presidential election in Iran in June. Thank you very much for watching this program and this interview on the current situation in Iran.